So this is the dashboard solution which we provide to every participating VC, regardless of whether or not they have reached certification. This is really their tool that consolidates everything and something they can leverage as a resource, providing information on the standard as well as a reference point for next steps, for recommendations, and for action planning their diversity and inclusion journey. Of course, on the first page, we have quite a detailed overview of what is required to achieve both levels of certification, as well as the programs and policies that combined create the framework. These programs and policies, as Chuck mentioned, we put together over the course of about a year, and in large part, of course, they were informed by Diversity VC institutional knowledge, as well as Diversio's AI-powered recommendation engine on what we've seen tactically work and move the needle in the industry. The next component is, of course, dynamic for every single fund. And this is where you really get to the good stuff, frankly. So number one, what you're seeing is your certification level. So like Chuck mentioned, the process is quite robust and not every fund meets the certification the first time around. If you achieve a level, you see the seal displayed here. If there's still a few things that you need to be implementing to achieve level 1, for example, you'll see a seal that says pending on it, which is a great, motivator. The next thing right next to it that you're seeing is your scores. So there's, of course, your overall score, which is how you performed overall. But then there's also scores according to each of the 4 categories we're using to assess how diverse and inclusive a fund is. And so the first 2 categories, as Chuck mentioned, recruiting and HR, and internal policy and culture, look at your internal policies, what you're doing to advance and promote D&I with your own employees, with your investment team. And then we have the next 2 categories, which are deal flow sources and portfolio guidance, which is what you're doing externally. How are you driving D&I when it comes to broader society through your portfolio companies, through your deal flow, which founders you're investing, et cetera, et cetera. I think one of the really great components here is that we do provide a very robust industry benchmark that is tailored to your fund size, for example, location, etc. And you're able to really understand, number one, where are you excelling, which is something you can discuss with your LPs, something you can discuss with your, on your social media, with your founders. And then number 2, where are you behind a little bit? Where is your priority area where you can actually learn from others? It is also a very clear indicator of what others are doing to get those higher scores and higher values or in this specific category. And it illustrates that it is possible, even though sometimes it might be difficult or challenging. The next section that you're seeing here is your top recommendations. So as discussed, your top recommendations really focus, and generated by our engine, really focus on, firstly, if you haven't reached a level, how can you reach that level or the next level? And then secondly, if you do have an area or a category where you're falling behind, they over-index in that area to help you level up as quickly as possible. The recommendation, the recommendations themselves are also quite tailored and customized to what we've seen work really well in other funds. So depending on the size of your fund, depending on where you are in your stage, we're providing you with additional information and additional context of things that are proven to work, so that as you're starting to think about how to apply this to your specific fund or to your specific context, you have those tools. So of course we have a description, very granular, and we also have resources which allow you to deep dive on the specific recommendations and see how can they apply to your unique fund. After this, of course, we also want to track impact. So we want to see, okay, what are funds doing? What are their next steps? And so the way that you can do this is simply by adding a recommendation to your next steps and seeing it appear here. And this really allows us to understand what are funds implementing across the board, all the participants, and then what kinds of programming and policies could we do in the future to really empower you to succeed, as well as track everyone's progress. Of course, when it comes to progress tracking, we also collect goals. So for example, if you wanted to reach, I don't know, 40% BAME representation at founder level by 2021 or 2021, you can add that goal here. And what we're able to do is really start consolidating and aggregating what all of the funds are doing, again, for that thought leadership piece, but also for the assistance piece, to ensure that everyone is successful on their journey and everyone is connected who should be connected when they're working towards similar goals. We also provide you with an overview of all of your current programming that we collect during the assessment. And this really is to consolidate everything that's going on throughout the fund. Sometimes we're finding that it's challenging to maintain those open channels of communication. So you have something going on through ops, something going on with your investment team, something going on with HR. This provides you with a holistic kind of bird's eye view of everything in the organization that is driving D&I. And then finally, we also provide you with next steps. So number one, what we'll be doing, which is obviously a big component of promoting D&I internally, so those first two categories, is actually deploying a survey and understanding the diversity and inclusion within your specific fund. So if your fund is big enough, what we are able to do is deploy our technology, collect the experiences and the demographics of your employees, and provide you with a picture of, are there any systemic biases? Are there any barriers to advancement? Is there anything that you can do to empower your own team to reach their full potential? And to, of course, diversify your team. And then the next piece is the portfolio assessment. So a lot of the funds that we're working with, for example, OMERS Ventures or BDC Capital, McCraw Capital, et cetera, they're actually moving towards deploying this data collection process with their portfolio companies. So asking the employees of their portfolio companies to share this information about their experience and demographics so that the investor can get an understanding of what are the strengths when it comes to their fund, the diversity and inclusion strengths. And then on the flip side, are there any companies that are struggling with things like toxic culture, for example, or a homogenous team where the investor can actually potentially have a role to play in helping them level up and helping them alleviate that. So it really is this holistic end-to-end process, everything you can track in one place, of course, you know, for convenience, and everyone's loved dashboards these days.